Rachel, you must feel a sense of excitement because it doesn't happen often that you've got a new country that is looking for a blueprint to grow the private sector at the same time as the world's newest country on earth.
Yes, South Sudan will be the 193rd country in the world, and it's an awesome challenge. The amount of work that needs to be done is awe-inspiring, but I think that this is a leadership that knows that a government can't grow a country, and so they are looking for really a blueprint for how to help the private sector be part of the growth, from micro and small enterprises all the way through to foreign direct investment.
Yeah. Now give us an overview of the kind of work that you've been doing. I mean, you have been already working with the government of South Sudan for quite a while now. Just give us a sense of the work that you're doing there and how far you've progressed.
Well, for the last 4 years, we've been on the ground in South Sudan trying to help them put in place the basic legal frameworks necessary to attract investment and to allow the private sector to operate. So an investment promotion law, basic support to business registration and to the actual enabling of companies to be formalised. So this first phase of work is now going to give way to a second phase of work. And here it's the next round of legislative reform and regulatory environment necessary for small, medium-sized companies and for foreign direct investment and regional investment. So this is things like insolvency law, a Companies Act. And so the legislative agenda is full of building blocks that the country needs. In addition to that, we need to work on access to finance for small, medium-sized enterprises, but also some of the bigger businesses in South Sudan who need agricultural finance, they need long-term finance, short-term finance, trade finance. But also then capacity building for small businesses. A lot of the trade that's going on within the region is also extremely expensive, and moving goods around within South Sudan and across borders is going to be a big barrier unless roads are built and customs and tariffs are reviewed and trade is facilitated.
Yeah. Now, of course, South Sudan is no ordinary country. I mean, we're talking about a country that's largely undeveloped. We're talking about a country that has been at war for a long, long time. We're talking about a country where there's virtually no capacity. So in terms of the work that you have done to date, how much have you been able to get done?
Well, I think that the first building blocks are in place. So while we have a business registry, now we need to build credit bureaus. The central bank needs to be established fully, and that's work by sister organisations like the International Monetary Fund and the World Bank, but then we can help with collateral systems and registries and the support to the government's actually facilitating of business. Lots of the work done to date is focused on Juba, but really now there will be 10 states in South Sudan, and some of the commercial centres in those states need to receive the same kind of support. So there also needs to be now a rolling out of some of the reforms beyond Juba. The size of the challenge is enormous, and the government understands what lies before it. But what impressed me on this visit is that they are focused on what needs to happen. They are focused on the hundreds of thousands of people returning to South Sudan. Some people are going to return with means and are going to be part of the business story of success, but many of those people are returning with nothing, just the clothes on their back. And these people are going to need jobs, they're going to need to be involved in the agricultural sector, and they're going to need access to microfinance. And I think the government is very focused that the private sector growth is part of the continued stabilization story of this new nation.
Yeah. Now it's interesting, you've got a government that is focused on growing the private sector. We have a very different story here in South Africa, where the government feels the private sector has not been able to create the amount of jobs that are required. But in your interactions with the South Sudanese, the ordinary people, do you get a sense that they are an entrepreneurial people?
I think that there is definitely an entrepreneurial spirit there, but in an immediate post-conflict situation where there is much aid activity in a country, then obviously sometimes that entrepreneurial spirit is distorted. I don't feel that I was there long enough to be able to give you a comprehensive answer to that, But certainly with the private sector representatives that I met over the last 2 days, they are very focused on a very concrete list of priorities. So they need access to finance. They need one taxation system, not multiple taxation systems. They need to make sure that as the new state is established, that bureaucracy is under control. They also need access to capacity building and training and to business services. And importantly, they need roads because they need to get food to market, they need to move goods around, and they need to facilitate trade between North and South. That will be the biggest trading partner for South Sudan in the immediate future, the North. And then they need to be part of the economic integration story of East Africa. So trade and facilitation of exchange between Uganda and Kenya and the other partners to the south. So the businessmen that I met, they can detail for you exactly what they need. And I think what we were trying to do is support the conversation between government and the private sector. Finally, the focus will now move to international and regional investment. And we did agree today with the president, well, the future president, the first vice president for the moment, that there will be an investor conference for South Sudan alongside the donor conference for South Sudan. And we also agreed that that would happen before independence.